Hello students, today we're going to be talking about functions. Please don't forget to take notes as you go and complete the survey that follows this video. Before we go on and talk about functions, I would like for you to write down in your notebook these 4 different tables. On the left side, label them as functions. The ones on the right hand side are not functions. Then leave a gap as you're going to come back to this at the end of this video. So let's discuss what a function is. A function is a relation in which each element of the domain is paired exactly with one element of the range. So we discussed domain and range and how it relates to our x and y values. So keep in mind, it's saying that every x is paired with one and only one y value. So in other words, we don't have any repeats in the x values. And every single time, if we were to repeat it, it's going to be with the exact same y value. Okay? So let's take a look at an example here. The one on the left there has the x values of -3, 1, 3, and 6. None of the x values are repeated, therefore it is a function. On the right-hand side, same exact case. We have the x values are -2, -1, 1, and 2. None of those x values repeat, so it is a function. So this is an example of looking at a set of coordinates through a table. The next way we can look at it is through mapping. So if we look at this, we want to identify the fact that -2 is only going to 0, 1 is only going to 5, 0 only goes to -2, and 3 only goes to 3. So the column on the left kind of represents the domain, and then the column on the right represents the range. So we're looking at the domain matching up with only one value there. So this is a function because every element of the domain is paired with exactly one element of the range. So taking a look at another mapping example, now this is A, B, C, D, E, and F, but the idea still is true. Even though on the right-hand side you can see that B and C both go to 2, and E and F both go to 5, that's okay. The key thing here is that we only have, say, A is only going to 1, B is only going to 2, and so on and so forth. So what we wanted to have happen is we don't have any repeated values coming out, and we'll see an example in a moment of where we would not have a function. The other way we can look at it is a list of coordinates, such as this. It's like a table, but it's written out left to right. So you can see if you're looking at the x values, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 2, they're all different x values. None of them repeat, therefore it is a function. So here's another one. Note how all the y values are 1, but that's okay because that represents the range. The thing that cannot happen is repeated values in our domain. It's okay to have repeated y values, just not repeated x values. So now let's look at some examples that are not functions. So if we take a look at the table on the left, you can see that the x values of 1 are repeating. We have 1, 3, and we also have 1, 6. Therefore, that is not a function. And the one on the right, the -2, repeats for -2, 9, and -2, -1. Since the y values are different for that x value, therefore it is not a function. So looking at an example of mapping, the one that stands out to us is the number 5 in our domain, or the x values. It has our mapping goes from 5 to 4, 5 to 5, and 5 to 7. So this is not a function. Just to show another example relating domain and range to input and output, the one that stands out to here is the number 0. It's paired up with 2 different numbers, therefore it is not a function. Continuing on, looking at a set of coordinates. In the problem here, we see that the x value 3 is repeated in 2 of the coordinates, therefore it is not a function. And finally, in this example here, we see that the -4's are repeated, therefore this is also not a function. So as you can see through all these examples that are not functions, our focus is on the x values or the domain, whether or not they are repeating. If there are repeats where they're going to different y values, it does not represent a function. So now I want you to go back to those tables that you should have written down earlier, and I want you to explain why the tables on the left represent functions and the tables on the right are not functions. Please make sure you're being specific, as I will be looking at them tomorrow. Please don't forget that a function is a relation, and that has one x value for every y value. Make sure you have written down all of your notes, complete the survey that follows this class, and bring your notes to class tomorrow. If you have any questions, you may also enter them in the survey. I'll see you tomorrow.